Hello, and welcome to the application walkthrough for grant requests to the Community Foundation of Greater Flint. The first step is to navigate to our website, cfgf.org. You'll see I'm already starting there now. If you are not sure what grant you're going to apply for, or if you need more information, you will want to look through our grant making portion of our website here. But once you are ready to get started, you will click on the blue login button. I do want to note that we are working on a website remake, so you may notice that it looks a little bit differently depending on timing, but generally our website is going to have the same features on it, and you will still start by navigating to the login button. If you do not already have a login, you can reach out to me, Stephanie Whitledge. Best reach me by email, swhitledge@cfgf.org. But you can also reach me by phone, 810-767-3505, or you can also reach out to your program officer to get connected. There is another option here for nonprofits to request login credentials. I want to demo this piece real quick. This is ideal mostly for new applicants who have not applied with us before. If you have applied with us before through the portal, then someone at your organization should have a login. So reach out to me if you do not know who that is, or if you need a password reset. But if you're looking to just get started, will complete your first name, last name, your email address, which will then become your login ID, and you will re-enter your email address here. At the next step, you will be connected to an organization. So, for example, I'm going to fill out my information here. And hit the red submit button. And what it's going to tell me is that I already have a login into the system, and it's asking me to log in now. Once your personal information is set up for a user, you could also register your organization. And again, you will want to use this this page that will actually take you into a search. So it will require you to have your personal login set up before you can connect to an organization. In this case, I am already set up attached to an organization, so I'm going to navigate to the grant seekers piece you just watched me click on here. First step should always be to access your grantee dashboard. You can click on grantee dashboard on the left or follow this blue link in the main area. The grantee dashboard has two pieces to it, and these should be looked at anytime you are looking to apply, just to make sure that your information is correct and up to date. So on the grantee dashboard, we have two pieces. Number one is your snapshot for your organization, and the next one is your organization profile. I'm going to start with the snapshot. So this includes various information about my organization, including my board, my discrimination policy, etc. If you happen to be associated with more than one organization, you will see that this drop down will have more than one option for you. So make sure that you are on the correct organization that you want to be looking at. In this case, I'm only associated with one. If I need to make any changes when I look through this, I will click on Edit My Snapshot. You'll find too any answers that are not filled out just don't appear in this section, so it might be worth taking a look at anyway, just to see if there's blank pieces that you want to fill out. For example, there's a question on funding needs. So, for example, I might want to put that I need funding for a capital campaign to expand services. Okay. Anytime you make changes, you will need to click on the edit button next to that section, and then you have to actually save twice. You save once for each section you are completing, and then once you are done making all your changes, you will need to submit at the bottom, and that will confirm your changes. it will take you back to this page where you can view your snapshot, and that is where I can see the change that I made. So in this case, we are looking at funding needs. So again, this piece that I just put in, I can confirm has been edited there. If you have any issues with it saving, definitely please feel free to reach out to me via email with the information you want to update. The next piece, we're going to go back to Grantee Dashboard to look at review your organization profile information. And this just has our standard communication piece. So here's kind of our summary here. Addresses, there may be more than one for some of you, and communications. It's very important that we make sure that this information is up to date because it is how we will likely be reaching out to you for more information, for grant awards, etc. So make sure all of this is up to date and that your primary contacts are noted accordingly. If any of this does need to be changed, you actually do have to reach out to us, and that is just to make sure that no one without the correct authorization makes these changes to these extremely important pieces. So once all of this is set, you will apply for a grant. You'll notice we have a couple more sections here. We also have application history, which is where you will go to see not only your previously submitted applications, but also to resume an application in progress. And you will also have my profile here, which is just kind of your basics as well as your password reset. I'll show real quick what the application history looks like. So in this case, I can see a demo application that I had already started in progress, as well as one that has been submitted is now showing in received status. In approved amount, you will see any amount awarded. The amount does already show as 0 for anything that has not already been awarded, even if it was not declined. So don't worry if it says 0 here, unless the status says declined. That means we are still reviewing it for consideration. For my submitted application, I have the option to review the PDF. Or I can go back in, but it says edit application, but you can't actually make any changes other than adding additional attachments. And once it's submitted, I would prefer you actually reach out to us to make sure that we know you're adding additional applications. Otherwise, if we have already pulled the application packet, we may not know those additions are there. Back to application history. If it's in progress, if we don't want to submit that one at all, or if maybe we accidentally started an extra application, we do have the option to delete it. Or if we click on the application ID, it will take us right back into editing the application. We are starting a new grant. You will want to apply for a grant. One more piece actually I want to touch on in the application history. One thing I do hear a lot is I don't see my application in here. By default, the range actually only shows the last 30 days. You can extend this for up to last year, or you can do a custom range. So I could say anything that was before today, and this will actually show me a lot more applications. Okay. So once we are ready to apply for a grant, you will want to review this application information up top, including what browser we suggest, making sure that you review your application snapshot. And I apologize, I think the browser piece is actually on the next page. If you still are not sure which application you're completing, you can visit our link here to view the different application programs. You could also reach me directly, just for clarity, but it does show we have the Flint Women and Girls program, which has a specific theory of change and request for proposals attached to it, specifically to serve those populations. We have our Neighborhood Small Grants program, which is meant to benefit the neighborhoods of Flint surrounding areas. That also has specific criteria, as well as the Flint Kids Fund, which has a very specific RFP There's usually 2 different ones per year, so you also want to make sure that you are applying during the correct RFP period, depending on your application. You could always reach out to myself or any of our program officers to clarify. The CFGF general application is the one we use for most requests. This includes our animal welfare funds, our geographic affiliate funds for Benton, Grand Blanc, Clio, etc. And we also use this for our youth programs and our health related programs and everything else. So in this case, I am going to start a CFGF general application. The reason we group all these together is because we utilize the same questions, and we can also look at your application across programs. Sometimes there is overlap. So perhaps you're a geographic affiliate fund that's also a youth fund. We can look at 2 different types of funding for that. The Flint Women and Girls Programs has a couple questions specific to that purpose. NSGP is probably the most different. So we've really used our regular NSGP application and put it into the online form. And the Flint Kids Fund is like Flint Women and Girls. It just has a little bit of difference there. So you will hit the submit button to start the application, and you will enter in a project name. Once I enter in a unique application name, which should just be just a general name for your project, you will hit begin application. And to clarify, here's the section that actually talks about the browser recommendations, also talks about how to navigate through the application. We recommend using the save and next button and back button within the application rather than in your browser, just to make sure that everything is getting saved as you work through the application. Anytime you can preview a PDF of the application that you have so far. You could also save a blank copy of the application and prepare your answers before submitting into the portal. This is something that we do strongly recommend doing, just because if any issue happens with your computer, your browser, or into the portal system yourself, you would risk losing any answers that you are typing directly into the application. Whereas if you have a saved separate copy, you can copy and paste that into the application. We also have a link here to the budget form in Excel. You do not necessarily have to use our format, but I do recommend looking at our format to see what information we are looking for. If you have a budget prepared in another format, do what's easiest for you and feel free to send that one over to us. We also have a budget sample completed. If this is one of your first times doing an application, you might want to see what a submitted budget looks like. To see what kind of thing we're looking for here. And of course, here is the blank copy that has all of the application questions. Here you will see 6 different sections. They're all consists of just a couple of questions. We just have them separated out by different type of question, and also to reduce the chance of you getting timed out and losing your responses. We'll go back to this when we're through, but the requirements is for any attachments, the project budget is the only one that is listed as mandatory. The organization financials are also considered mandatory as well if we do not have your most recent financial statement on file. So if it has been over a year since you've submitted, you're going to want to definitely update us with whatever new organization financials you have. An audit is probably the best thing if you have an organization that does yearly audits, a 990 form if you have it, and that's anything that is an actual 990 filing, 990 EZ, but not a 990N. A 990N is actually a non-filing because of a low budget. So in that case, we would want to see what your annual organization budget looks like, or like a profit loss sheet, something that shows us your revenue coming in and your expenses coming out. We also have an option to upload any letters of support. This is by no means required. but just shows us if you have any partnerships, who you're working with, and any additional information that you feel is applicable. So now that I've looked at all that, I'm going to jump right into section 1, application overview. You will see some of these pieces are automatically pulled in from my organization snapshot. That includes my legal organization name, my EIN number, me as a contact. It does ask for my contact title, so I'm going to enter that in there. It does have my contact information. It asks for your total program costs, a start date. In this case, I'm just going to make it the calendar year. Yours does not necessarily have to be the calendar year, but we do suggest submitting at least a few months before your application start date, just because it does take us some time to go through the decision process, especially if your application has to go to a committee. We do have some flexibility in the start date based upon request, but usually we like to have it around or after the grant award is made. In this case, I am requesting $10,000 on a $100,000 program. I have the option to save and resume later. That's where you would go back into the application history to resume at a later date. You can preview the PDF at this stage or any point, back to go to the previous section, or in this case, I'm going to save and go next to continue on through. This first question is also auto-populated from the grantee snapshot. So this is the background information on your organization. And then it asks if there is any significant changes that have happened in the past year. That could be major changes like moving, new programs that have started, major programs that ended, your board chair changing, several board members changing, anything that is seen as a major organizational change. Or you can simply put no changes. Save and go next to continue once again. So in project information, the first question you will see here is a drop-down select. We ask that you select the top 2 grant programs and or strategic priorities that your project best aligns with. In this case, I'm going to say access to healthy foods and poverty and basic needs support. I do know that it may be difficult to narrow it down to just 2, but we're asking for the top 2. And if it hits on more of these topics, you can definitely detail that in your narrative. But we're looking for the top 2 things that you are working with here. And select all is an option, but we do not recommend using this because we really just want to see what your top 2 are. And it's a little hard to see until you scroll to the bottom, but there is a save button down here. You will want to do that to save your answer into that piece. Please briefly describe how your project aligns with the strategic priorities selected above. So you'll want to go into detail with the 2 things you selected, and you can also explain here if there was something that you thought was closely aligned but was not one of your top 2. Did your organization receive funding from the Community Foundation for this project last year? If you hit no, then everything will continue as you see here. If you hit yes, you will actually have a couple new questions populate. This is so that we can know what has changed since your previous application. Describe the progress of your project to date, and relate them to your goals and objectives. So based on what you asked for last time, what has changed, and are there any changes that you're anticipating in the upcoming year? How would you describe this project in 1 sentence? We are looking for something very short and concise. It does not have to necessarily summarize everything that you do. We just want a quick summary. So if we said, what is this grant proposal going to fund? You would say something like, to help feed families on the north side of Flint. Okay, something very short, concise, and it tells me what the project is about. Save and go next. Goals and implementation. What are your goals and activities for this project? And what is your organization's experience working with this type of project, including who will be responsible for oversight and why? If at any time you have questions based on how to answer these, you can reach out to me directly or any of our program officers for clarity. Next one is project impact. Here we're going to have another drop-down select. This one asks that you select all that apply. However, I will also reiterate, we do not recommend using the select all button. If you are serving all of these areas, we have an option for Genesee County-wide that you can select. Again, you can multi-select on this one, and then we also have an option for other, which you can detail in the narrative. In this case, I said that I was serving the north side of Flint, so I'm going to make sure that I'm selecting what is consistent with my application. How many people will be served by your project? We understand that you may not have an exact count, but we just want an estimate here. We understand that there are underserved and or marginalized populations in our community. Will your project address issues and needs of the underserved and or marginalized populations listed here? So again, this is another multi-select. Ideally, again, not the select all button, because we want to make sure that you're intentional on reading all of the options and knowing that you are actually serving and targeting these populations. In this case, I'm going to say children, older adults, mainly Black, Hispanic, and white. Low-income persons. Okay. So again, a little hard to see. You have to make sure that you're actually scrolling all the way down here on the side to hit the save button. And it shows me I have 6 values selected. I can go back in there and change that if I need to, but make sure that you are hitting the save button and not just the X to actually save your response. Please describe how your project will intentionally address the disparities, issues, or needs of the underserved and or marginalized populations you've identified. So now we're talking about who we selected up here and how we're going to specifically outreach to them and include them. Please describe how you use strategic outreach and or deliver services to reach the underserved or marginalized populations you've identified. Have you involved the most impacted populations in the development of this project? If yes, please describe. Now I'm going to leave this blank so I can show you what happens if you do not answer a question. It will stop me. It will tell you this field is required. I could go to save and resume later. In this case, I'm going to go back and answer this question and save and go next. Continuation and sustainability. Describe any significant partnerships or collaborative relationships instrumental to the success of this project. Letters of support and memorandums of understanding are strongly encouraged to show that you are mutually working with these entities. What are your plans for evaluation, including how success will be defined and measured? So when you say, I have these goals, how are you going to show whether or not you met those goals? Explain whether and how the Community Foundation of Greater Flint funds will be used to leverage additional dollars. So if you were to receive a grant from us, are you going to then apply to other entities for more funding and showing that we've already got this commitment in from the Community Foundation? Would you like to put in some funds too for this project? That is one great way for organizations to build sustainability, by showing that they have some funding in, and a lot of times that opens the gateway to more considerations of funding. If your project is funded by CFGF, what are your plans for continuing the project at the end of the grant period? include funding. In some cases, this is, I'm going to do this project once and that's all we need. We're going to serve who we're going to serve and the project is going to be over. That's completely okay. But if you are going to have an ongoing project, once we fund you, what are you going to do after our funding ends? You can absolutely say that you are going to apply to us again. However, our funding is typically not multi-year and never guaranteed. So we do want to know, if we are your funder, what are you going to do if we are unable to fund you? Do you have other sources of funding? Are there other places that you are planning to seek funding from? Are you building sustainability with our dollars so that you no longer need grant funding? Let us know here. Can your project move forward with a partial grant from the community foundation? If yes, what project changes will occur? This happens very frequently. We do get many more applications than we can fund, and many of them are great proposals. So sometimes what we have to do is lower the amount of funding to a smaller number than you asked for. I do always encourage grantees to ask for what they need, but also tell us what's going to happen if you don't get that full amount requested. Do you have other sources of funding identified? Is there a way you can subsidize your project based on the amount of funding you get? Is your reach going to be smaller? Is the project not going to be able to move forward at all? Let us know here. There is this section at the bottom that we added just to make sure that everyone knows that your application is not submitted until you meet the attachment requirements, which at bare minimum is the budget, and that you do have to continue through the submission and signature page before your application is actually submitted. If you are not sure if your application is submitted, you should know by an email that you received letting you know it was submitted. If you do not receive an email letting you know that your application has been received and you are not sure what you're missing, you can feel free to reach out to me and I will see if we can figure it out together. But you do have to check this box to acknowledge that you recognize your application is not submitted until you complete all of those steps. Once you continue and finish section 6, you will be brought back to the main page of your application. Now I can see that all 6 have a green check mark next to it. There was no check mark here before we got started, so it will also show you if you have any sections that are not completed. So again, here we do want to see your organization financials and your project budget. You could also attach those additional items if needed. Going into the attached section of the project budget will take you to a page that looks like this. You can add more attachments at one time, or if you hit that accidentally and you don't need all those, you can delete the ones you need to. I do recommend preferably uploading one attachment at a time just because it does slow down the server and you want to make sure that each file uploads successfully. In this case, I'm going to upload our budget sample. Once I place it in here, I have to hit the upload button. There will be a slight delay while it processes. That one went pretty fast. And then you will see your file name show up here. If you are not sure which item you uploaded, maybe you had more than one version, this gives you the opportunity to open it and double check this is the right one. If you realize this is the wrong one, you have the option to remove this and upload an additional document. Once you are all set with the requirement, it has now told me it's completed, and I can use this back button to return back to the application page again. So now I have my 6 green checks and my mandatory document is completed. Again, I would need to upload my organization financials, but let's say in this case, I have already submitted my most recent ones. And another thing I want to add too, if you emailed it to me directly, that is completely fine as well. It does not have to be uploaded here as well. We will have it saved on the back end for you. This is a great opportunity to preview your PDF and save your own version, although you are able to retrieve it out of the portal at any time once submitted as well. In this case, I'm going to continue to submit my application. And this takes you to the final signature page. So please don't skip this step as either. We do want the name of your executive director and board chair that have signed off on this project. We want to know who is the applicant. and the date you are submitting. Then we will hit submit your application. This is your final step. At this point, you will not be able to make any changes without reaching out to us. And any changes would need to be made as soon as possible after submission. Otherwise, it risks not being able to make it into the packet changes before we share with the committee. But if there's any major changes to your project, definitely reach out to us and let us know that too, so that we can consider that during the process. So now it says that my application was successfully submitted. It gives me an application ID. I will also receive an email confirming that. Now I can also go into my application history and see the new application that was just submitted. Okay. Thank you all for your time. And as always, reach us with any questions. Email is best, but feel free to reach us by phone as well. Have a great day.